Niccolò Machiavelli, a name that echoes through history like a whispered secret, simultaneously admired and reviled. He is history's original villain, the father of political manipulation, the man who dared to say, power is its own justification. But was he truly evil? Or was he simply the only one honest enough to tell us how the world really works? Machiavelli's genius is often misunderstood. While some cast him as a villain, others see him as a man brave enough to tear apart the comforting illusions of morality, revealing the brutal reality of power. A philosopher of contradictions, both ruthless and pragmatic, poetic, yet cruel. He spoke of virtue, but his virtue was not that of saints. It was the cold, calculating prowess of survival in a world that seldom rewards goodness. To understand Machiavelli's philosophy, you must first understand his life and the times he lived in. Born in 1469 in Florence, Italy, Machiavelli's world was one of chaos and upheaval. Italy was not yet a unified nation, but a patchwork of city-states, each vying for control. Political assassinations, betrayals, and mercenaries shifting allegiances on a whim were everyday occurrences. His father, a lawyer, provided him with an education steeped in the classical works of Rome and Greece, but Machiavelli's real education came from watching the brutal reality of politics unfold before his eyes. He entered public service in 1498, in a time when Florence's political situation was as unstable as ever. For over a decade, Machiavelli served the Republic of Florence, rising quickly through the ranks as a diplomat and advisor. But in 1512, everything changed. The powerful Medici family returned to power, overthrowing the Florentine Republic. Machiavelli was suspected of conspiracy against the Medici, arrested, tortured, and exiled. It was during this dark period of exile that Machiavelli wrote his most famous work, The Prince. Exiled from the city he loved, Machiavelli sharpened his pen like a blade, crafting a guide not for the virtuous, but for those who would wield power with cold precision. "It is better to be feared than loved," he wrote, "not because fear is good, but because love is fickle and fear endures." At the heart of The Prince lies a stark truth. Politics is not a moral game. It is a battlefield. Machiavelli separated politics from ethics in a way no one had dared before. For him, the ends, stability, power, survival, always justified the means, no matter how cruel or deceptive those means might be. Machiavelli believed that a ruler must be willing to be ruthless when necessary, for people are driven not by virtue, but by self-interest. A prince, he argued, must know how to be both a lion and a fox, fierce when needed and cunning when required. In a world where others lie, cheat, and betray, Machiavelli asked, why should the ruler be any different? "Be the lion to frighten wolves," Machiavelli said, "but be the fox to avoid their traps." In many ways, Machiavelli was ahead of his time. While his contemporaries clung to ideals of Christian virtue, Machiavelli painted a more brutal, realistic picture of the world. He understood that people are rarely as good as they pretend to be, and that sometimes, to survive, one must play the game on its own terms. This is why his works, especially The Prince, have been read by politicians, CEOs, and even military strategists for centuries. But Machiavelli's philosophy comes with a warning. While power may be essential, the constant pursuit of it can be corrosive. Machiavelli believed that fear, carefully managed, was the key to maintaining control. But he also knew that hatred was a ruler's downfall. "Be feared," he said, "but never hated." So, what can the modern man learn from Machiavelli? First, understand that the world is not a perfect place. It is filled with people who will act in their own self-interest, often at your expense. But this doesn't mean you must become a villain to survive. It means you must be aware. Awareness is your greatest tool. Second, embrace adaptability. Machiavelli believed that fortune controls half of what we do, but the other half is within our power. In today's fast-paced, ever-changing world, it is those who adapt who succeed. Like the lion, be bold when circumstances call for it, and like the fox, be strategic when the time is right. In a world driven by fortune and fate, those who survive are not the strongest, but the most adaptable, those who know when to stand firm and when to bend with the wind. Machiavelli's ideas, while controversial, reveal truths that are as relevant today as they were 5 centuries ago. To navigate the complexities of power, politics, and leadership, one must blend strength with strategy, morality with realism. And perhaps, above all else, one must remember, the world is not always as it should be, but we must find ways to thrive in it as it is. In the dance between virtue and fortune, only those who embrace both can hope to lead with wisdom. And in a world where power sways with every turn of fate, it is the adaptable man who rules.